I stole from a shopping cart by user in Babrini. So this happened a few days ago at a grocery store. I was waiting patiently in my lane, and beside me was the priority lane for senior citizens, PWD, etc. There were a couple of elderly people sitting on the chairs provided specifically for them while waiting for their turn. Pretty normal setup. Now some guy casually walks up and cuts right in front of the seated seniors. I speak up and say, hey, they were already in line. And this guy, without even looking at me, goes, I don't see them standing in line though. Real smug. Real dismissive. The elderly folks looked uncomfortable, but didn't he want to cause a scene? So I shut up and I simmered. A few minutes later, we're still in the lanes and I notice his cart is stacked with what looks like camping gear such as a sleeping bag, paper plates, marshmallows, instant noodles, a portable stove, etc. And there it was, a single can of butane gas. And right there, I saw an opportunity. The guy is blabbering on the phone, totally distracted. So I casually leaned over, plucked the butane from his cart, and slid it into mine. He didn't notice. He checked out and left. I paid for my stuff, including his butane, and walked away. Somewhere out there, this man arrived at his campsite, probably boasting about how smart and quick he is. And when he tried to fire up that portable stove, no gas, no hot food, no coffee, just crunchy noodles and the sweet taste of consequences, hopefully. Edit, some stores where I'm from put up those plastic benches for priority lanes. Also, PWD means people with disability. She wanted credit for my work, so I gave it to her. There's this co-worker in my department who is notorious for swooping in last minute and polishing up projects just before deadlines and then taking all the credit when presenting them to leadership. It happened to me one too many times. I did the bulk of a project, research, design, data analysis, the works. She added a few bullet points to the summary slide and slapped her name on the email to the execs. So for the next big assignment, I let her do it again. I sent her my unfinished draft, saying I was running behind and needed help. She jumped at the chance. I completely stepped back and gave her all the credit, even encouraged it, except I knew the data was flawed, on purpose. Nothing crazy, just off enough to collapse under real scrutiny. She presented it with pride at the all hands. The department had asked one question she couldn't answer, then pulled up the source data and the loopholes became obvious. She stumbled, flustered, ended the meeting early, saying she'd circle back later that week. I was asked to quietly step in and fix the report. No more stolen credit since then. She still avoids eye contact. I stole a car from a car thief by a user trained dodged wool. I woke up one night to the sound of my 95 Honda Civic trying to start. It wouldn't start because the thief hadn't found the kill switch. There is a lot of car theft in my city and those old Hondas are easy targets, so I am glad I had that installed. I ran outside in my underwear and just shouted from the porch as deep and loud as I could. Hey, what the fuck are you doing? And then two people ran out of the car and down the street. The shouting woke up my roommates and they came downstairs to see what was up. We peeked around, but the thieves had run off. Then a few minutes later I hear the engine trying to start again. So I shout for my roommates to come back and we all ran outside in our underwear and pajamas. One guy had a skateboard, one guy grabbed a bat. So we were just all standing on the porch, not trying to get physical, just shouting at them. The one thief yells back from another Honda parked just a few feet away from mine. No, this is my car. We were just trying to get away. That's my car. I'd quick came over me, but I shouted back, no, that's my car now. That's mine. And they just were like, okay man, and ran off. I couldn't believe that worked, but I think it only worked because of my three other roommates with the underwear and skateboard and bat. I called the police right away and stayed outside watching for them, but they didn't come back. The police checked their car or my new car and found that it was stolen, of course. So the owner got his car back, I guess. And I am so glad I had that kill switch. She never hit me again by user RFO mon IAC. This happened when I was 8 or 9. For context, I am in my 40s now. When/where I was growing up, physical discipline was not just the norm but a moral imperative if you were to be considered a good parent. My parents both worked long hours, and I was often left home with my grandma. Parenting responsibilities often fell to her, or so she seemed to think. One of her favorite methods of discipline was to have me go pick out a wooden spoon from the kitchen drawer, hand it to her, hold out a palm, and wait for her to smack it. She never went easy. One day, she accused me of breaking a little glass of garden. It was just this small glass enclosure with some nicely arranged rocks, water, and moss inside. It was a gift from my mom to my dad. He liked these kinds of things, and to this day I have no idea how it broke. I told her I didn't do it. She accused me of lying. I got lippy, and sure enough, go get a spoon. I learned by now that the small spoons stung more. The big ones spread out their impact more evenly and also went slower. Besides, if I chose too small a spoon, Grandma would hit much harder, as if to tell me I wasn't going to get away with it. But today, I was angry. I went to the kitchen and picked out the thinnest spoon I could find. I held it at each end, pushed my knee into the middle, and cracked it. Then, I fit the wooden splinters together as best I could before going back into the next room and handing her the sabotage spoon. She didn't notice. It didn't help that her glasses were as thick as her thumbs. She didn't notice it was a thin spoon, however. She also noticed the dirty look I gave her the first time I'd ever dared be so brazen. She saw red. She took a mighty swing, and the spoon broke in half. I put on an Oscar-worthy performance, wailing at the top of my lungs. I ran to my room and stayed there. She didn't chase me. Later, when my parents got home, I overheard her, distraught, telling them, "I had no idea I'd hit him that hard. I don't know what came over me. I am sorry, Christ of mercy." That was the last time I ever got the wooden spoon, and also the last time she ever hit me, full stop. Although I overheard her apologize to my parents, she never apologized to me, so I let her feel guilty about that for the rest of her life, never telling her what I'd done. It would be another 30 years before I'd finally tell my own parents this, my earliest and longest held secret. Love ya, Grandma. Got my revenge after the neighbor beat his wife and made a false police report against me by user Censure 122. About 10 years ago now, I live next door to this real piece of work. Save you the details, but over the course of months we would hear yelling and screams from the house next door. Not a townhouse, a standalone house. So it was loud. I've called the police more than once on the apparent DV taking place. One day we got to talking with the wife and she had bruises on her arm and a gnarly cut on her leg. That was from being put through a glass coffee table. Eventually she would come spend the night to get away and I'd patch her up. I was in the military and an EMT in those days and had a trauma bag at home. I also used to open carry a pistol, which was legal there. That'll be important in a minute. She refused to call the police, saying that he was a mortician in town and had a lot of cop friends. That it wouldn't go her way. One day he got pissed we'd help her out. So he made a false report to the police that I threatened him with my gun. So a sheriff's deputy rang my doorbell one afternoon with a restraining order that was going to compel me to move. The problem was, I sold the gun a month before the supposed event to a cop. My girlfriend at the time was friends with a social worker who was dating said cop. I called him up cop and explained what happened. He essentially went over there with a picture of my old gun with a ruler next to it as if it were evidence. He asked neighbor if this was the gun. Neighbor said yes. He asked neighbor if that was the correct date. He said yes. So, he serves him with a ticket for making false report and the restraining order went away. Next time neighbor sees me outside, he made general threats. Well, I just got my discharge from the Air Force, so I was moving back home to the East Coast. And just before I did, I went to his backyard with a shoot of bamboo that I cut into 4 in pieces and a rubber mallet. I randomly drove them all over his backyard. That same week, I also brought his wife to a women's shelter. It basically overtook his backyard. He will never get rid of that bamboo. Piece of shit.